Today, we're diving into a chapter from the Gospel of Matthew that honestly reads more like a high-stakes drama than an ancient text. Using the Enduring Word Biblical Commentary as our guide, we're going to track this escalating conflict between Jesus and the religious establishment of his day.
And really, that's the big question here, isn't it? Because what we're about to see in Matthew chapter 9 isn't just a list of miracles. Nope. It's a series of head-on confrontations that challenge the entire religious power structure of the time.
So the story just kicks off right away with an act that sparks immediate, although pretty quiet, opposition. In this first challenge, it's not about what Jesus does, it's about the authority he claims.
Okay, so you have to picture this scene. The commentary points out a really crucial detail here. Jesus first noticed the faith of the man's friends. I mean, these guys were so desperate to help their buddy that they literally started tearing a hole in someone's roof. It's that wild act of faith that catches Jesus' attention.
But here's the twist. Jesus doesn't start with the obvious problem, the paralysis. The commentary notes that he goes right for what he sees as the greater problem, not the man's legs, but his soul. He offers forgiveness. And well, this is exactly where the trouble starts. You see, the religious experts, the scribes, are in the room, and they're thinking, whoa, hold on, this guy's blaspheming. In their minds, only God could forgive sins, period. And the commentary points out, this is the very first whisper of opposition we hear in the whole story.
But Jesus knows exactly what they're thinking, even though they haven't said a word. So he hits them with this brilliant question. Think about it. Anybody can say your sins are forgiven. You can't prove it, you can't see it, but telling a paralyzed man to get up and walk, that's a claim that needs immediate, visible proof. So by healing the man right then and there, Jesus proves he has the authority to do both, the invisible and the impossible.
And the conflict definitely does not stop there. After challenging their theology, Jesus takes it a step further and starts shattering their most important social and religious rules.
So you really have to understand who tax collectors were back then. The commentary is super clear about this. They were seen as the worst of the worst. Traitors working for the enemy, Rome, and usually cheating their own people. They were totally excommunicated, complete outcasts. And it's one of these guys, Matthew, who Jesus walks up to and says, "Follow me."
And this moment right here just perfectly shows the clash of worldviews. The Pharisees see Jesus having dinner with Matthew and his tax collector friends, and they're just horrified. Their whole system was built on separation. You stay away from sinners so you don't become unclean. But Jesus just flips it. He says, I'm like a doctor, and a doctor's job isn't to avoid sick people, it's to go right to where they are.
Then Jesus delivers the knockout blow. He quotes the prophet Hosea, basically telling these Bible experts to go home and reread their own scriptures. He's saying God cares way more about a compassionate heart that reaches out to people than he does about perfectly following every single religious rule. It's a major rebuke.
All right, the next encounter really makes it clear that Jesus isn't just trying to tweak the old system. He is introducing something entirely new.
The disciples of John the Baptist, who were very serious about their faith, come up with a totally fair question. They say, hey, we fast, the Pharisees fast. It's what religious people do. Why don't your followers? Jesus answers them with two really powerful analogies.
First, he says you don't take a new piece of cloth that hasn't been shrunk yet and sew it onto an old coat. Because the first time you wash it, that new patch will shrink and rip an even bigger hole in the old fabric. His point, you can't just patch his new teaching onto the old system. It's just going to make things worse.
And then you get the famous one, the new wine. The commentary explains that new wine is still fermenting. It's expanding. If you pour it into old, stiff, brittle wineskins, they'll just burst. The wine is lost, the wineskins are ruined. The message couldn't be clearer. What Jesus is bringing is so new, so alive, this new covenant, that the old religious structures just can't hold it. It needs a brand new container.
From here, the story just shifts into this incredible rapid-fire display of power. Power that the old system has no explanation for. And it's all fueled by a kind of faith that works completely outside the established rules.
Now get this, a ruler from the local synagogue, a guy who is part of the establishment, comes to Jesus, totally desperate. His little girl has just died. But as Jesus starts walking with him, the story gets dramatically interrupted.
For 12 years, 12 long years, a woman had been suffering from a hemorrhage. Now, under religious law, this made her permanently unclean. That meant she was an outcast, cut off from her community, her friends, even from worship. In total desperation, she thinks, if I can just touch the edge of his robe. And she does.
And Jesus stops everything. He could have just let her get her healing and disappear back into the crowd, but he doesn't. He makes it public. And the commentary highlights just how huge this is. He doesn't just heal her body. He restores her to society by calling her daughter, welcoming her back into the community with honor.
So when Jesus finally gets to the ruler's house, the whole ritual of death is already underway. We're talking professional paid mourners wailing and making a scene. But when Jesus walks in and says, "She's not dead, she's just sleeping," their professional grief turns into actual ridicule in a heartbeat. They laugh at him.
So what does he do? He kicks all the mockers out. And then, in the quiet of that room, away from all the noise and doubt, he just takes the little girl by the hand. And she gets up. It's a demonstration of authority over everything: religious rules, social shame, and even death itself.
So after all these confrontations, all these incredible miracles, the camera kind of zooms out, and the commentary shows us the why. What is the real motivation behind everything Jesus is doing here?
Now here's the key insight. Technically, these people had shepherds, right? The scribes, the Pharisees, the priests, they were supposed to be the leaders. But Jesus looks right past that whole religious system and sees the people, and his heart just breaks for them. He sees them as exhausted, confused, and basically abandoned by the very leaders who were meant to care for them. And this brings us to the final and maybe most important reframing of the whole chapter. Jesus doesn't look at this huge crowd with all their overwhelming needs and see a problem to be solved. He sees an opportunity, a huge, ready harvest. The fields are full, the crop is ready to be brought in, but it's all going to go to waste if there are no workers.
And so this whole story leaves us with that powerful question to chew on. It forces us to shift our whole perspective, to stop seeing the needs around us as a heavy burden, and instead to see them as an incredible opportunity. It suggests that maybe the greatest needs we see are actually the greatest chances we have to find our purpose, not as managers of a problem, but as workers in a harvest that's ready and waiting.